Okay guys, the exercise I'm going to demonstrate for you today, it's an isometric sumo pull. You're going to do these as a maximal effort. When I program these in, I typically like to give it to my athletes when they are training in season, and I work with a lot of baseball players, if they have showcases, tournaments, scout days, anything where they need to be performing at their best and we don't necessarily want to induce a lot of soreness, we're going to program these in. So I like to use them a lot. On that note, let's get into it. You're going to set up your J-hooks or your spotter arms at a spot that's either just below your knee or just above your knee. I want you to get into as wide a stance as you can, turn your toes out. We're going to recreate all the same mechanics. We want to be executing it with perfection like we do on a regular lift when we're doing a deadlift. So that means back is nice and neutral. We've got a slight hinge in our hips. We're driving through our heels. We're keeping our toes down. We're creating a lot of intra-abdominal pressure through our stomach, our rib cage, and our chest. I would suggest using either straps or a mixed grip because we don't want the limiting factor here to be your grip. We want to be able to pull as hard as we can without losing the stability of our hands gripping onto the bar. I'm gonna grab the bar, get it up under the J-hooks, get in a position, and when I'm ready, I'm gonna pull for 3 to 5 seconds. Boom, then we set it out. Typically, I'm gonna try to program about 4 to 6 sets on an isometric like this. Typically, I only like to perform about 4 to 6 sets, depending on the movement we're doing. With this one, more often than not, we're gonna do 6 sets at 2 different angles. So we'll do 3 sets, but then we'll either raise or lower the J-hooks. You can really pick whatever height or size you want to work on. Just make sure as you do these more over time, experiment with different angles, so that way we can get stronger at different degrees of motion, okay? Another big thing I like to add on to these lifts, I like to superset jumps in between the sets. Depending on where you're training at, sometimes that's not always logistically possible. If you can do your jumps in between your sets, great. If you cannot, don't worry about it. You will do them after you work through these. Another option you can do if you find it hard to find a setup like this at, let's say, a local commercial gym, if you can, Smith machines should work really well. You can even overload them to a point where they will not move and you never take them off the hooks. That being said, just be very careful when you try to go too long on these. More is not always better. I would never really do a maximal isometric for longer than 8 to 10 seconds. In a movement like this, 3 to 6 seconds is about the sweet spot. You don't really need to go out past that. That is an isometric sumo pull. If you have any questions on that, feel free to message me over at Instagram at Unbridled Strength, and I'll see you in the next video.